You spend hours making your game UI look perfect. Then you look at it on a different screen size and it's different. It's too big, too small, or just completely broken. Suddenly, your finished UI isn't usable anymore. Now let's see how to actually size your UI. Okay, so you put a screen GUI inside the solid GUI and put a frame inside of it, okay? Now you have this little white box, which you can position however you want, resize it however you want, and once you're done, you may think that you're really done, but you couldn't be more wrong. Because once you take a look at this frame in different screen sizes, you realize that something's off. The frame looks smaller, it's off center, and it's just not ideal. Same if I go to the phone display. As you can see, now the frame is bigger and it's still off center. So what's happening? Let's take a look at the properties of this frame. So if we scroll down, we see it got a size property with X and Y in it, and both X and Y has a scale and an offset. When we resize the frame, you can see that it changes the offset. The offset is the size of the frame in pixels. And what's wrong with pixels? Well, pixels stay the same everywhere. So it's not gonna size based on your screen size. It's gonna stay the same. So on a large monitor, it's gonna be smaller, and on a smaller screen like a phone, it's gonna look bigger. So how do we fix it? This is when scale comes into the place. Well, let's talk about what is scale. Scale also resizes the frame, but it doesn't use pixels. It uses percentages of the parent element. What I mean by that, so the value you put in it gonna become a percentage. So if I put in 0.5, it's gonna become 50%. So this frame gonna be 50% as wide as the parent element. In this case, it's the screen GUI, so it's gonna take our whole screen. So basically, 50% of our whole screen. You may notice that it doesn't look like 50%. Well, that's because we didn't zero out the offset. So if we set 0 for the offset, you can see that it's gonna be 50%. And the good thing about scale is that when you resize your window, you're gonna see that it changes with the screen size. It changes with the window. So if I position this in the center and also change the Y, let's zero out the offset and set the scale to 0.25 for instance. And now as you can see, it really changes based on the screen size. Now if I go to a different screen size, you can see that it's gonna size based on the screen size. If I go to an HD monitor, as you can see, it stays relatively the same, okay? The same rules apply to the position. It also got an X and a Y, and both of them has a scale and an offset. A Roblox Studio by default uses the scale when you move the frame around, so it's a pretty good thing. So if I want to center this frame, I'm gonna use scale. So let's position it to 0.5 and the Y as well. Let's put it to 0.5 as well. Because 50% to the right and 50% down, that should be the center of the screen, right? That's what you expect, but it doesn't look like it's centered, right? Well, that's because there is another thing called anchor point. The anchor point is basically telling you where is the center of the frame. By default, it's 0 by 0, so 0 to the right, 0 down, aka the top left corner. It works similarly to the scale. It uses percentages from 0 to 1. So if I set it to 0.5 by 0.5, it's gonna be exactly at the center of the frame. So now this frame is truly centered. No matter the screen size, it's gonna be at the center. Now you can switch between different devices and see how it looks. As you can see, it looks pretty much the same on every screen size, and that's what we want most of the time. Alright, now if I put a frame inside of this frame and make it blue, so you can tell the difference. If I'm gonna position and size this blue frame, I'm gonna use scale, because I want it to be relative to the parent element. So the size of this blue frame gonna be relative to the white frame, because that's the parent of the blue frame. So let's look at an example. First, let's see the size, okay? By default, it's 100 pixels by 100 pixels, and it uses offset, which we don't want in this case. So let's zero out the offset, and we're gonna use scale. Let's say I want this blue frame to be 50% as wide as the white frame, so So half. Set it to 0.5. That will make it half as wide as the white screen. And let's say I want it to be as tall as the white frame. So I'm gonna set it to 1, which is gonna translate to 100%. Now you can see that this blue frame is half as wide as the white frame and as tall as the white frame. You can play around with it. You can set it to whatever value you want. If I set it to 1, it's gonna take up the whole white frame. If I set it to 0.1, it's gonna take a bit at the start. Same with the Y. If I set it to 0.5, it's gonna take half the height of the white frame. I can also center this blue frame by setting the scale to 0.5 by 0.5. Now again, the anchor point by default is at the top left corner. So we're gonna set it to 0.5 by 0.5 to make the center truly at the center of the frame. Now this blue frame gonna be always at the center of the white frame because we use scale and we set the anchor point correctly. So no matter how I resize this white frame, it's always gonna stay at the center and the size is gonna be relative to the white frame. Alright guys, this was a basic introduction to how to properly scale your UI. If you'd like to see a more advanced tutorial with designing and stuff, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this and maybe you learned something, drop a like and see you next time.